Welcome to episode 357 of In Touch by iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, Vision Pro, Mac, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and he's back. It's been too long. Ben Rathik, I'm so glad you're back on the show. Welcome. How you doing?
Guess who's back? Back again. If I sing anymore, we'll get sued.
I don't know if that was a catchy tune, but
Yeah.
so
But
glad
it is great to be
made
back.
it. Yeah.
It is great to be able to actually be downstairs and not in a great amount of pain.
Good.
For those who don't know, I was not stuck in North Korea or somewhere. I ended up hurting my shoulder, and then 8 days later, after I got released from PT from that, I ended up hurting my knee. And since my little office setup here is downstairs, that created a little bit of problem with being on podcasts.
And we're glad you're healing and you made it down to the basement to come talk to us today. I really appreciate you being here. Almost appreciate being here is Eric Bolden. How you doing, Eric?
Great.
We're gonna make you a regular now. How you doing? I'm glad you're here.
Oh yeah, it's good to be here. It's been a fun week.
It has lots of stuff to talk about. And Marty Gensia, it's always a pleasure having you here. How you doing? I'm glad you're here.
It's a great time of the week for me because I just gave my first final exam, and that means it's the end of the semester, and that means, and we had our last faculty meeting until the fall. I am joy,
nice.
happy, joy.
I bet. And certainly last but not least, Jeff Gammon's back. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing all right. And my shoulders, knees, exam plans, and crap. I had something for you, Eric, also, and I completely forgot what it was. I'm sorry. It's been a long week. But yes. I'm happy to be here, and I apologize for ruining my first joke after getting back.
No. You didn't get a hand palm yet, so you might get one later.
Well, the night is young.
Yes.
What?
A what?
A face palm.
Yeah, face palm. I guess I'm hand palm. Face palm. What am I thinking? Anyway,
a hand palm is like this.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's a clap.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. And I want to go ahead and move on here. So let's go talk about what we're going to be chatting about this week. As always, it always happens when Apple has its quarterly results. It happens on the day of us recording. And we're going to talk and discuss that a little bit. And I got a couple shout outs of folks I want to call out to I was attending, as well as our normal stuff, In Touch with Vision Pro, In Touch with Mac, and all the other fun stuff. So, but before we get started here, I want to give a shout out to the Naples Mac user group. They were very, very cordial and inviting me to speak at their Mac user group this past Wednesday as we record this. And I talked about iPhone 16e and all the benefits of that iPhone, as well as gave them some good Vision Pro insights, and may have sold a couple. Who knows? Some people got excited, but a shout out for Sheeta and for Eckert for inviting me and being part of the great group. And you got to go check them out. We have the link in the show notes, and you might want to join the groups. They have some amazing meetings every month and workshops and all kinds of fun stuff. So check them out. Thanks to everybody at the Naples Mac user group. I really appreciate you inviting me and including me as a presenter this week. So let's go ahead and just jump right into the quarterly results. 6 Colors is always our place to quote, because Jason Snell is absolutely amazing with his bar graphs and charts. It's his headline this time around is "Beware of the tariffs" inside Apple's latest financial results. So, kind of a summary of what actually happened. The financial highlights: revenue was up $95.4 billion, up 5% year over year. Can't complain about that, I don't think. Earnings per share was a 165, which is an 8% increase over the previous year. They have an operating cash flow of $24 billion. Boy, you can't complain about that. And shareholder returns of $29 billion returned through dividends and buybacks. And stock buybacks have been authorized an additional $100 billion for share repurchases. So needless to say, they did pretty well considering the products and services performance. iPhone revenue was $46.84 billion, blistered by the launch of the iPhone 16e, that featuring Apple's first custom modem chip, the C1. Services revenue was $26.65 billion, achieving a new all-time high. Wearables and accessories underperformed related to expectations, so I guess you could kind of expect that. But year over year, they did a 7% increase overall for the quarter, and then year over year for different other products. The iPad was up 15%. It was just the same as it was the first quarter of 2025. So that's good to see some strong sales for iPad. Year over year for the iPhone revenue change was about 2%. So the last quarter was down minus 1%. So not a big number with iPhone, but overall nice to see that there was a bit of an increase. It was really the fact that the 16e really, I think, has driven a good chunk of these sales in iPhone. Services, they actually dipped a bit. It was at 12. It's at 12% this quarter, or it was 14% in the first quarter, and lots of, I think, pretty good numbers overall. What stood out for you, Marty? Where Apple stood out with here? We know you actually listened to the results.
I never take the opportunity to listen to them, but I did because I was proctoring an exam. So I sat in the front of the room and I had an earbud in and I got to listen to it. And for those who've never listened to it, Tim comes on and talks about all the wonderful products and stuff that's been going on with Apple. And then there's some report where they start to talk about these kinds of numbers. And apparently they put a report out like an hour before, and that's where I went to first to kind of look at it. The number that sticks out in my head was 900 million is going to be the cost of the tariffs in like June or something. And they don't want to project anything other than that because they have some things they do in June that are that's going to be costly for them. And on top of that, the tariffs are going to be impacted on by that amount. And I thought, wow. Just really, really surprising. But the sense I got from the types of questions they asked, they also asked about Apple Intelligence. Yeah. And Tim's general response about Apple Intelligence was, hey, it's not ready yet. It's not up to our standards. We want to get it up to our standards. That's going to take more time. There wasn't an apology. There wasn't a, oops, we shouldn't have done this last year. That was the statement I heard from him twice. Once when he was describing Apple Intelligence, and the second time when somebody asked him about Apple Intelligence. It's not to the standard that we want it to be. It will take time. So those were the walkaways for me from it. And I'll keep my eye on the next time. Curious to listen to these when they come out.
I have to say before I get to the rest of the panel here is that I think that's a fair statement from Tim Cook. I mean, for the fact of just being open and honest and not having to apologize. I mean, why apologize? The press has been all over this for months and months about this, and understandably, because they did a bit of an epic fail. Then you start hearing rumors about the management changes and people moving around and all that stuff. But that's a pretty fair statement in my opinion with what Tim Cook said and relates to that. So, Bren, jump in here. Where's your thoughts on this? I don't know how fresh this is in your mind, but let us know what you think.
Well, I mean, number one with Apple Intelligence, I mean, they've basically overhauled the entire structure of it. This is as close to making a admission of fault as you can get from Apple.
Yeah, I agree.
They know they have a lot of work to do. They're not hiding it anymore. It is what it is. I think other than the financials, you've had 4 strong quarters in a row for the iPad, something that 2 years ago, people had questions if it was basically dead as far as a product goes. And then you have the real moneymaker for Apple these days, which is services, which is giving a very consistent 12 to 14% increase year over year on something that is has a lot less of an investment than the hardware. So that's where you're going to be seeing Apple's focus and revenue going forward.
All right. Jeff, you've listened to this fresh as I described it. Where's your thoughts on this first impression?
Okay. Well, first, a disclaimer. I have been so busy with other things outside of our tech bubble. I did not know Apple had their earnings report until you announced that we were talking about it. So,
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know there was a earnings report until I saw it mentioned in a little story we're going to be talking about later.
Yep. Oh, well, see, you're not that much far ahead of me, Ben. Yeah. Okay. So here's my thoughts as I just scan over the charts and stuff in the 6 colors piece. iPhone sales are flat.
Yeah.
And they have been for a while now. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so, because they sell a metric buttload of iPhones every quarter.
They do.
So not having a lot of growth for a window of time isn't necessarily an indication that Apple's sitting on a dead product now. You have a lot of people that are replacing iPhones that are a little bit older, and that's great. And you have some people that are leaving to go to Android, some people that are leaving Android to come to iPhone. And so if we saw consistent quarters of declining sales, then maybe we'd be having a different conversation. But that would also lead us to the services conversation. And Tim Cook has been very savvy, and he along with the other executives have been planning for the day when the iPhone is not Apple's bread and butter. And that's super smart. And it's clear that that services is going to be the bread and butter that takes over from iPhone. So seeing this consistent year over year increase, it's a steady thing. We're not watching that like crazy sharp increase. I prefer seeing this type of growth for what Apple's doing in services as opposed to the sharp increase, because I think this is going to stay more stable over time. Let them just keep slowly increasing, but 14% year over year, or in this case, 12%. I mean, that's still pretty significant. Then, okay, so we should talk about the tariffs. Apple is very, very intentional about what they talk about, more so in an earnings report. So when they give you guidance for the coming quarter, there's a really good reason for why they're telling you exactly what they are. And so letting everyone know this is the impact tariffs are going to have right up front says that this is a very real issue that Apple's having to deal with. And they already know what impact it's going to have on the bottom line. Now investors can bake that into their projections and buy and sell plans. And how about that iPad? Yeah, like Ben said, that's a product that not that long ago people were questioning if it was even really still a viable product, and we're seeing increases in sales. I didn't think it was a dying product. I think that Apple just had to do what they do periodically with the iPad and the Mac, which is they have to go through this transition phase where people wonder what's going on with upgrades and why we have a weird matrix where some things that cost more have fewer features and something that costs less, and then it all evens out, and then they're off to the races. And I think that's where we are with iPad.
Yep.
And they talked about the U.S. investment thing. Marty,
Yeah.
I'm assuming since you got to listen to this, and I agree with you because I had to listen to these all the time for years. If you have a chance to listen, do it. These are fascinating things to listen to. But did they talk about this investment being something that's been in the works for a long time? Okay.
Yeah, they were big on that, and they're also big on talking about U.S. made iPhones will be shifting to India, and
Okay.
to financially to adjust to the tariffs that are there. But yeah, Tim came back a couple of times to talk about the plant in Arizona that they're building and the one that they just broke ground on too.
Okay. So what I'm extrapolating, the tapestry I'm building from the thread you just gave me, is that Tim used Tim Cook speak to let everyone know without actually saying the words that this investment is something Apple had been working on already, and Donald Trump doesn't get to take credit for this.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that to try and throw us into political discussion. It's just something that I find interesting about the way Apple delivers messages to people. Yeah, and then which ties into no. I would be surprised if anyone at Apple said anything about we're waiting on robotic arms to build iPhones in the United States. Which is another line that came out of the White House, and my take on that is the White House comment was fakety fake, 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 and Apple is not planning on building a robotic production facility in the United States to make iPhones for a long list of reasons, not the least of which.
But it would be
is
cool.
It would be cool. It would be cool. It
Oh, yeah,
would
of
be
course.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
R2D, like a whole line of R2D2s just building all these phones, and with the C3PO supervisor walking through the facility with his robotic panties in a bunch because the iPhones aren't being made fast enough.
Yes,
That's
I'm now picturing Bender being a supervisor on the iPhone line.
Oh, I want that iPhone. Yeah.
All right, let's.
I'm going on break. Make some iPhones. And Dave, I spoke way too long about all of this.
No, you didn't.
I apologize for that.
That's good.
Imagine how much more I would have had to say if I had been aware that this had happened today before you started talking about it on the show.
Well, let's bring Eric in here as the last word on this. So what's your thoughts on this? All these announcements.
I was kind of interested in the wearable items.
I forgot to mention that.
So, it was a drop, but then there wasn't really anything new and expensive that anyone was purchasing. So I think that is a category that at some point we'll see a change in it. I think Jeff's right services, that's big, and it's a nice way to sort of adjust for everything else, for differences in quarters and products that are ready. Services is the one category that works whether it's a new product or a used product.
Yep.
So you can increase sales in services even if somebody's buying something older, which you then don't have to import. You don't have the tariff problem, but you still can sell the services part. And the wearables, I'm kind of excited about. I'm just not sure how many quarters we're going to have to wait before we see things there. But yeah, watches, I think we'll see changes first.
Let's hope.
AirPods maybe too. They're talking
Yeah,
about
AirPods.
Yes,
Yeah,
yep,
new version of the AirPods. Yep. Yeah, you go back at least was that 4, 5, 6, 7, almost 8 quarters prior to this have all had drops. 5% was kind of in the middle between the rest of them, about 2%. You haven't seen a big major drop until I was around Q4 of 2023 at 10%. But you're looking at big numbers back in 2022, up 36%, and the numbers were going like gangbusters. But I think you're right. You're right, Eric. I mean, I think the Apple Watch sales have kind of just flattened out. I mean, there's not a lot of excitement about it. You got the Series 10. I didn't upgrade to the Series 10 because I want the blood oxygen availability, and I'll talk about my experience with my Apple Watch later. But I want to keep that. So we'll see what they'll with Apple Watch 11 comes up with, but. I really want to have that because that's kind of a nice thing to have and be able to measure it that quickly. And it's a shame that people who are buying the newer watches in the U.S. anyway, you're not getting that. So I just want to make sure I didn't mention what the actual the wearables was. It was down 5%. And I think they did say a lot of times it's been a rough time right now. They haven't really come up with anything exciting. You have the Watch Ultra 2 is still out. The 3 will probably be coming out this coming year. And then we would expect the Apple Watch 11 would probably come out too. One thing I also want to make sure I mention is the Mac. The Mac over the revenue was up as well. It was up 7%. So it shows some pretty good numbers there. And there was no doubt that what brought those sales up is the M4 MacBook Air, because that's an amazing machine. I'm happy with my M3 MacBook Air, and between the M3 and the M4, there are just subtle differences. So I'm not going to be upgrading for a while for that machine, and that's my secondary machine. So I think Mac's going to continue to stay strong in that area too. But overall, the numbers look good. I mean, maybe I'm being overly confident and positive, but I think the bottom line is I think Apple Intelligence has, like you said, Marty, that Tim Cook was really open and honest about it and didn't have to be apologetic about it because it is what it is. We know us as Apple fans here. We know that Apple wants to have everything perfect, and if it's not perfect the way they think it's perfect, then it's going to be delayed. Yeah, granted, they did overpromise and underdelivered. We know that, but the fact of the matter is, it's something that takes time. ChatGPT had its rough times. Google's Gemini, what did they call it before that? I don't remember. They have their struggles. And Microsoft's Copilot in AI, and that the good thing is with AI in itself is the fact that they're using ChatGPT for a lot of their engines with Apple Intelligence. Going to ask you, do you want to go out to ChatGPT to use this? I know Google's trying to get in that door too with Apple with the Gemini. They're in the browser market with them, and the search engine is prominent on an iPhone. But so I think there's some great future with AI. It's just again, I'm a fanboy. We all are here, but let's see what happens the next quarter and see where Apple ends up, because it's the battle with Apple Intelligence and the S Lady. It's just getting those both to work really well. I mean, it'll be a great experience. So, anything else you guys want to add before I move on? We could probably talk about this for an hour by itself.
I'm trying to think of the drop off in things like wearables. And if I'm a consumer and I'm out to purchase something, I'm going to get a computer or an iPad first.
Okay.
Or an iPhone. First, I'll get the phone, then the computer,
right,
and then maybe an iPad. Further down the chain of my purchasing, if I'm an average consumer, is going to be a new watch or a watch altogether. They did mention there were quite a few first-time watch buyers. Tim made a point to say that. But most people don't replace their watches every time a new one comes out. And so I think that's further down the food chain, which is why we're seeing sort of a regular 5% under or whatever in terms of wearables, unless a new product line comes out.
Yeah. But you're right. The Apple Watch, we need some excitement with it. I mean, they got to come up with something exciting. I mean, obviously they're looking at other things. Like I know the glucose is a long way away, and potentially maybe the blood pressure monitoring could be here soon. We don't know yet. So I think they need to have a feature that comes out. But I think what is driving the Apple Watch sales is all these stories of it saved their life, and you're going to talk about that later, Marty on that. So all those things that save a lot of folks' lives, with AFib and with when you fall and all the other great things that the Apple Watch has to offer, it's something that was really good. So anyway, I think we had some great numbers, and Apple stock was slightly up today. So at least it's back up to where it was, very close to where it was, because a few weeks ago it was like way down. But then that's the market for you. So all right, let's go ahead and move on. We'll talk about In Touch with the Vision Pro this week. Apple did release the beta 4 of the Vision OS, and most likely on all of these betas is probably just some bug fixes and stabilizing performances. It was only a week after the last beta shipped, so so far nothing I can tell that had any difference. Eric or Marty, did you see anything different on this? I don't think you did.
Nope.
Just basic bug fixes. So
yeah, I'm waiting for the beta that will then predict my future.
3.0.
We're not going to see any major changes at this point.
No, I don't think
all
so.
the things that they said they were going to roll out in 2, they essentially have rolled out in 2. Siri, the S Lady, is much more responsive, I think, and there's a lot more that you can do with it.
So okay, I have to ask, and I'm asking not as a joke, but like serious, more responsive in that you're actually getting quicker, useful results, or more responsive in it fails at a faster rate for you, so you don't have to wait as long.
I'm looking to use it more for specific tasks, or what you would do in terms of closing apps, opening apps.
Right.
There's been some threads on how to use it for that purpose, which means I don't have to necessarily use my eyes and my fingers to do it. I can just give voice commands, and that seems to work pretty well. She's not doing complicated tasks, she's not doing complicated tasks on that, but the voice integration is really good with Vision Pro. Eric, have you tried any of that?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's more efficient and faster to do things by voice than it is to do it the pinch and click way. Which is a good sign. And it also is a good, and it's not everything. It's not like you can say, hey, how do I do this random task and get an answer or hold a conversation? But in day-to-day usage, is it faster? Yes, than doing it without voice. And the team that produced that performance and the fact that it works is the same team that is tasked to fix the S Lady everywhere else. So they have experience, and we want it to be useful.
Yes.
And that is a good sign.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Ben, anything you want to add to this before we move on?
Nope, not really.
All right.
At this point, Vision Pro is probably getting the most out of any of the 0.5 updates.
Yeah.
Only because it's got the furthest to go as an OS.
That's a pretty fair statement, I guess. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. We'll the links are in the show notes as far as the beta release notes. But Apple did release the trailer of the new Apple TV Plus full feature-length immersive film. We've been talking about this for a few months now. U2, or Bono, is going to have his movie called Stories of Surrender on Apple TV Plus. And then we know Apple and U2 have had a long history of collaboration with the Songs of Innocence debacle, if we remember so fondly when that was forced on everybody's iPod at the time.
How dare people give me free stuff?
Yeah, how dare them? I don't want this. Well, anyway, so this is just another latest evidence that the relationship is really even stronger with Bono and U2. The fact that they also have part of his his 2022 memoir, which was Surrender: 40 Songs, One Story. The full length movie is going to be available on May 30th, so it's the end of this month as we record. But you have the trailer. It's out on YouTube right now. You can watch that. Links in the show notes or in the article. And I'm excited. I can't wait to see this. I mean, I'm a pretty good fan of U2, and not everybody is a fan of the band, but I'm excited to see this because just from the experience we had with the Metallica immersive video, and in fact, somebody else I had a discussion with about this, and how they got super excited about when they watched it because how insanely immersive it was, and we talked about this before. Metallica's video was just insane. I mean, it felt like you were there. So, so this is exciting. What do you guys think about this video? We'll start with Eric.
Yeah, I'm excited to see something that's full length.
Full length, yeah. We've been seeing these shorts, 18 minutes, and you want more.
Well, and I'm hoping that you wouldn't produce a full length feature unless it was good.
Yeah,
and I think they've got enough time and money and talent and to do it right. Try it a bunch of different ways and then pull everything together. So I'm really hopeful. And each thing Apple has done has had new camera techniques and new ways of kind of putting things together. And this is far enough in the future that kind of all of the other things over the past year that they've been trying out, they know about. So hopefully we'll get all of the best of the kind of test shorts, and I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah. How about you, Marty?
Oh boy, you're not going to like this.
You don't like U2?
No, I really like U2. I mean, when I was working at stations, they were coming out, and I was very much into U2.
Okay.
I looked at the trailer, and that if you're excited about seeing this, I would say avoid the trailer. Because for me, the trailer did a couple of things. First, it appears to be shot in black and white.
It is.
So I'm wondering, and I'm watching it on a 2D YouTube. I'm not watching it in a Vision Pro. So I'm still wondering with black and white, what kind of spatial or depth you're going to get without much color in it. I will say that Tim, when during the earnings meeting, he didn't mention U2. He didn't mention Hill Climb, which was the latest immersive
we'll talk
thing.
about that.
He mentioned Metallica. And I think Metallica is maybe going to be a better representation. The other thing that got me was, this is stories. So it's not U2. It's Bono with a bunch of musicians around him. And he's kind of leaning into the microphone and going, well, let me tell you about my mother and her father. And when they met together, it was the first time. And you get a sense that this is going to be stories interwoven with portions of music that he's singing, but not with the full band. 2.5 minutes, it's hard to judge, but I would encourage people to look at it. At the same time, I'd say, don't look at it and go into it cold and see what it is.
Ben, you have some thoughts on this? I know you're a big Metallica fan, right?
Yes.
And maybe you too.
We've been getting little glimpses, little tastes, little previews of the Vision Pro over the last couple of years.
Yep.
It's about time we get the full course here.
Right.
I mean, immersive video has promised to be pretty much the consumer feature for this product. It's time we start moving forward from something that's just a tech demo.
Yep. Jeff, you get the last word here on this.
I like what everyone has been saying. And it would be super easy. Well, no, it wouldn't. It'd be super easy for someone else to say, and I have nothing else to add. But it's me, and so here we are. Okay. Regardless of whether or not you like U2, I think this is an important thing for Apple to do, regardless of whether or not people think the Metallica video is going to be better than this. This is about letting people see a proof of concept that you can do a full-length feature video movie and have it as a completely immersive experience. And right now, Apple's in the place where Vision Pro is still a bleeding edge product for a very select set of users. This is not a mainstream product yet, but the more content you produce like this to showcase what you can do, the better off you are down the road when you get to that point where you're now targeting the average consumer. And you have this vast library of really cool stuff for them to experience right away. And like Ben said, the entertainment aspect is, I'm totally paraphrasing you, Ben, is going to be a core part of the consumer use experience. And that's totally okay. You can have this as a product that caters to professional users and casual entertainment users, and get this content out there so that it's ready when people are ready to start watching, and so that you can show the other content creators, movie studios, whoever, these are the kinds of things you can do. So Apple needs to continue investing in stuff like this, and I'm hoping this is not the last of their feature-length experiments. Marty, I think that your concern about depth isn't necessarily one that you need to be wailing and gnashing teeth over. You can do incredible things with depth and black and white, and if the team that put this together studied Ansel Adams, then I don't think we're going to have a problem with the depth in this. In fact, you may have a level of depth that you're not seeing in full color content.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on to the next topic, and that I was on to talk about the new Apple Vision Pro immersive video. We just kind of mentioned it before. This is you're in the passenger seat of a record-breaking rally car hill climb. This is the 5th installment of the Apple immersive video series in adventure. It's now available for only the Vision Pro. The latest entry transports you into the passenger seat of a rally car during a record-breaking Pikes Peak International hill climb attempt. In addition to the driving views, the hill climb episode is going to take you behind the scenes with driver Laura Hayes as she explains why she's racing up the side of the mountain. Most impressive footage in the episode is the immersive first-person shot that they have on the road as they speed up the mountain and ride up that hood of the car. It's absolutely amazing. And there hasn't been any one of these immersive videos that I haven't been disappointed in. We want more. And will she break their own record it's a notoriously tough Pikes Peak? And Jeff, I'm going to start with you because this is in your home state.
It is. Okay, first, I love that this race has always been called the Pikes Peak Hill Climb.
Mm-hmm.
Pikes Peak is 14,100 and something feet high.
Right.
It sticks way up into the sky. The road is windy and twisty, and it's everything about going up Pikes Peak and then coming back down is spectacular. Yeah. And getting to experience this from the perspective of someone who's in the hill race, I can only imagine just how cool that's going to be. And for a lot of people, this is the only time they'll get to experience something like Pikes Peak. I have done Pikes Peak as a hiker more than once, and that kind of freaks people out when you come up on top. And
you made it to the top. Wow.
Oh yeah. I've been on top of Pikes Peak more than once on
Nice.
foot and in car many times. Anyhow, what I hope is that the people that are savvy enough to know how to parlay this into good advertising to get more people to come and check out Pikes Peak and Manitou Springs, which is a bonkers, crazy cool place. And Colorado Springs, that whole area. Yeah, that's great. And I love stuff like this. So, oh, I have 3 Vision Pro users that I'm going to be seeing in July.
Yes,
at
you are.
Macstock. If I ask politely, would someone let me watch at least a few minutes of this on their Vision Pro?
Watch the whole thing. Come on.
Yeah, you don't even have to ask politely.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
We'll be all in the room together.
All right. Hey, you guys, you better let me watch this on your Vision Pros, or Ben's gonna come and find you. Okay.
Okay, guys, don't let him watch.
Well, this is not working the way I expected.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this is another example of what Apple needs to be doing so that people feel like they're getting their money's worth out of this device when it becomes mainstream consumer.
Anybody have any brief additions to his comments? Because we're getting a little short on time here. Anybody else have a comment?
I just I enjoyed watching it. What I'm doing now with these videos is trying to figure out the camera angles. And I get sucked into the photography and then I have to go back and watch it for the narrative.
Yep. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the beta discussion. I'll be real brief with that. There isn't much to talk about, honestly. iOS 18.5 was released. It's the 4th beta, and the public beta is also available as well. So far, it's just been minor updates. Really not much else to say about it. It's because, Apple's going to be transitioning over to iOS 19 and iPadOS 19, not even just about a month from now. So there really isn't much else to say about that. watchOS came out as well as tvOS, watchOS 11.5 and tvOS 18.5. Nothing really much to talk about there. There really isn't much else to say there with the beta this week, so I'm going to keep it brief. The other thing I want to mention is In Touch with Mac this week. They did see the 4th beta of macOS Sequoia, a 15.5. Again, not much. It's winding down because, macOS 16 is going to be transitioning over pretty soon here, so not much else to say. Just you'll be updating it. Probably bug fixes and such, so really not much else to say there. One thing I wanted to mention here real quick, because I thought this was interesting, this is a Mac-related discussion, is Firefox. I like Firefox browser. It's the browser I use all the time. This week, Mozilla actually recently updated the Firefox browser to add support for tab groups. It's a feature that Firefox users have been wanting for years. And then according to Mozilla, tab groups have been the most requested idea on the Mozilla Connect community platform. It's going back to 2022. So basically what's going to do is with the tab group implementation, you're going to have users be able to drag and drop tabs and then have them organized into groups. And then you can label them for name and color and with groups. So it might be any way to do that. So this is Firefox version 137. Safari already had supported tab groups with the option to save a number of those browser tabs, but the tabs into a tab group can be revised later. So I might got to start using this. I have not even tried this yet since this was announced. Any Firefox users here besides me? Okay. So we can
for many, many, many years.
No, I enjoy Firefox. I still continue to use it. So I don't know if I dare go talk about this story, but I'm going to anyway. Epic Games claimed victory as Apple has sanctioned for defying court order over App Store rules. The latest twist in the long-running battle between Apple and the Epic Games has delivered a major blow to the company's App Store operation. The ruling issued Tuesday was it was found that Apple's was a willful violation of the 2021 injunction that designed to stop the company's anti-competitive App Store practices. According to this 80-page order, Apple's thwarted the injunction's goals, imposing the new fees and obstacles that continue to stifle competition. And it can go on to say that this has been an ongoing saga. We've talking about Epic Games all time. And Ben, you brought this to our attention this week in social media. So why don't you go ahead and just kind of tell us briefly what's been going on with this?
Yeah, I will start by saying this. Epic Games and Fortnite are the least interesting and least important part of the story.
Okay.
Um,
Good point.
I'll say this. Well, Apple knows exactly how far it can take the judge because the judge is now referring Apple and one of its VPs for criminal contempt charges, possible perjury. Pretty much, you have Tim and outgoing CFO Luca
Maestri.
Yes, I
I've
can't
got
talk
your
today.
back.
Yeah, looking like villains in this. Phil Schiller, who has been dragged through the mud over the App Store how many years, is now looking like a folk hero to developers. I mean, looking despite, if you take away the injunction, which is Apple is going to appeal, and B, takes a lot of control out of its own hands. This is about as bad of optics for Cupertino as you can get. This was a major miscalculation from the company.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add anything to this? I know it's not too much. None of us are really gamers. Ben's more of a gamer than we are. Any thoughts on this, Marty?
I listened to macOS Ken this morning, and he, because I saw Ben had posted the article, and I thought, okay, and then I saw that you had it as part of it, but I hadn't gotten to read it yet, and I listened to macOS Ken, and it's like, ooh, this is bad. It's not just Epic Games going na 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 na. It is bad. It's bad optics, and probably going to cost them a lot of money and a lot of legal stuff.
Yeah, that might be a fair statement. Eric or Jeff, did you want anything before we move on?
I will be quick. First, talk about burying the lead. Yep, Ben, you nailed it. The whole Epic thing, that's not even a side story in what's going on here. From a legal perspective, I'm finding super fascinating. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And I would love to be privy to what's really going on, because there's what the court is saying, what the media is saying, what Apple knows, and what everyone else involved in this process knows. None of those things completely align. So knowing what's really going on would be just super fascinating. Did Apple leadership intentionally perjure themselves to try and win this case, or to get the outcome that they wanted? And if that's the case, someone made some really bad decisions here. That said, Apple is a very big company.
Yeah.
With a lot of money. And they may very well have said, yes, we're going to do this. And we may get caught or we may not. And if we get caught, we have a very big bankroll to deal with this problem and make it go away one way or another.
Sure.
So, now that I know this is playing out, that's how busy I've been. This is the first time I've heard of this.
To be fair, this came out last night.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well,
the details of the court order of all the things that Apple needs to do. When I was listening to that, and I probably should just get the court order and read about it. It is fundamentally going to change if they followed it to the T, fundamentally change the way in which things go through the App Store. And
I have a hypothesis now.
All right.
okay.
I've been waiting for one.
Okay, so here we go. You get a hypothesis tonight. Marty, thank you for setting that up for me because I haven't read this order and I didn't know. If this fundamentally changes how Apple operates their App Store, then I could see Apple looking at this as a long tail strategy where they keep taking it farther through the court system to get to the outcome they want, and they may very well be prepared to try and get this all the way to the Supreme Court.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So, my hypothesis now is that regardless of how their actions are being interpreted and whether or not they might be facing steep fines, sanctions, criminal filings, this is all part of a very calculated strategy that they knew going into this. They were looking at this part of the process, and there are no surprises for Apple in this one right now.
Yeah,
we shouldn't get into this too deep. I think Dave's got a good point, with the show.
I think,
but Frank, this could be. I mean, there is looking at the details of all the things that are expected. That could be a long conversation.
Yeah.
All right,
and I bet it will be.
Yeah, and it says something about how. It says something that Apple is immediately complying with this order.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Like I said, I knew there would be a pretty broad topic towards the end of the show here. So let's go ahead and move on this week. Marty, you shared a story with us earlier this week on Mac Voices Live, but I wanted our audience here to be able to hear about it as well. So you had a bit of a dilemma with the Apple Watch and the Health app. So why don't you kind of share your experience of what happened this week?
I had I was running a meeting on Monday and Tuesday, and so Sunday I was trying to get ready for it, and my Apple Watch kept going off telling me that I had irregular heartbeat. I've had that happen before, and it was kind of a false positive. There was no explanation for it. Months ago that happened. But it said, you might want to talk to your doctor. This could be AFib. And so I said, yeah, sure. And I did what all stubborn men do. And ignored it. And, but it kept coming up and I did not feel good. So I'm like, I just need to take more naps. And eventually I made the mistake that men like me do. I told my wife the next morning and she said, you're going to the doctor. And I said, but I can't. I'm in a meeting from 9 until whenever today, and I'm running the meeting. And I feel okay, and my heart rate's all right. But I called my doctor, and my doctor's nurse said, we can get you in at 6. So surprising, I went over there, and by then I had looked at all the data that was in my health app, and it was like every 2 minutes, my watch was sending heart rate data to my health app, or every 3 to 5 minutes. I had a day long full of data. And then, it would stop and it would give me a warning and then it would start that over again. But, with the 5 or 6 things I had during the day, it covered my whole day. And I took it into the doctor, showed it to the doctor, and he was like, yep, AFib. And then he made a statement which really surprised me because physicians don't necessarily want to take a position on this. But he said, that thing, referring to the Apple Watch, when it comes to AFib, 98% accurate. You get an occasional false positive here and there, but it's great. So he's got me hooked up for the next couple of weeks. I've got a button that I can push if I start feeling dizzy to record what's going on with me. I'm giving friends an opportunity for a quarter to push it so I can make a little extra cash on
Where's
the
the
side
slide?
and
Yeah.
show, throw some false positives toward my doctor for a while. But yeah, it was an event. And the irony of the story is I always wanted to get a new watch when new watches come out. And it's sort of like, but hon, I got to get the new one because it will record your heart rate and it'll take you about AFib and blah, 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 blah. And I think that was karma coming back to me. That actually it forced me to get AFib in order to get karma. So I'm thinking Vision Pro 2, maybe pancreatic cancer. I'm going to go for something bigger for that.
Well, go ahead, Jeff.
Marty first. I'm glad this is caught, and presumably you will be okay. But now you have a free pass.
Yeah.
Anytime you're ready to upgrade something, and your wife's like, "You can't spend that money." Oh, so you want me to die?
I'm afraid to ask that question. But
okay, fair.
Well, we're glad it worked for you, and I'm super stoked that watch. Pretty much, I think it saved your life, honestly, because you could have let it go, and it could have gotten a lot worse. So that's great. That was a great story to sharing with us, and I'll appreciate it. So my story wasn't health related, but it was Apple Watch related. So I unfortunately had a bit of a fall about a week or two ago, and I went down and it completely scratched the heck out of my Apple Watch. Not that I should be more worried about my health and other things, but I did take care of that as well. So that's not part of this story. But so anytime you have Apple support, I've got Apple's text ready to go in here, instead of having to go into the support app and go through all the rigmarole. You just start sending them text messages, and then they eventually get you to a tech, and you get to describe all the stuff that's in there. So I did that and said, because there is a warranty with the AppleCare Plus on the Apple Watch that if it's physical damage, you have to pay something like $69, and then they would send you a new watch without the band, of course. So I went through the steps and had all that process go, and so because usually it's the screen is cracked or it's separating. In this case, it was really deep scratches. So I have AppleCare Plus on this for at least another 6 or 8 months because I bought the watch when the 9 first came out. So it's been a couple of years. So within a matter of about 15 or 20 minutes, they said, okay, we'll ship you another Apple Watch, and then you just put the old one into this box and ship it right back to us, and away you go. So again, kudos to Apple and having amazing support when it comes to this. And I said it time and time again, I think AppleCare Plus in most cases does pay itself off when you go and turn around. I would have to spend another $300 if I wanted to buy another Apple Watch, and I wanted to keep the Series 9, so you'd probably have to go deep to try to find one. So they sent it the exact same model, and it was a very excellent experience. And I think all of us here can attest to this when it comes to Apple support, whenever you're getting takes care of things. And I've talked about it for years on this show with my Macs and with my iPad and my iPhone. I've had plenty of iPhones where the screen was cracked and they took care of it. And so kudos to Apple again for having a good support success. Anybody want to throw any comments on this?
This is why you buy AppleCare.
Yes,
right
indeed.
There.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Very much.
So let's go ahead and go talk a bit about the news this week. Apple TV Plus here's everything that's becoming in May of this as we record this. Some kind of interesting shows here. One of them it's called Long Way Home. It's with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman, and they gear up for their 4th Long Way adventure. This time through 17 European countries on crinkly old bikes. So it looks like kind of a cool movie. Check that one out. Murder Bot was based on Martha Wells' best-selling Hugo and the Nebula Award-winning book series Murder Bot. It's a sci-fi thriller comedy with self-hacking security construct with a horde by human emotion, yet drawn by the vulnerable clients. I don't know if there's any big names in this. I don't think there is.
Stellan, or not Stellan, but one of the Skarsgårds is the main character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And a couple others. What was the other one? Deaf President Now. It counts the 8 days of historic protests held at Gulad University in 1988 when the school's board of trustees appointed a hearing president over a severely very qualified deaf candidate. And that I think I've known about the story because this kind of goes along with the Americans with Disabilities Act that was passed by President George H.W. Bush back in 88, 89. This looks like a cool little documentary. You can check this out. Always interesting to watch documentaries. Other one was Fountain of Youth. It follows two estranged siblings, John Krasinski and Academy Award winner Natalie Portman's in this one, who partner on a global heist to find the mythological Fountain of Youth. They must use their knowledge of history to follow clues and epic adventures that will change their lives and possibly lead to immortality. So then we talked about...
I'm not convinced Natalie Portman didn't actually find it.
Yeah. It's possible. It is possible. And we talked about Bono and that movie coming out on Apple TV Plus. Apple Vision Pro, I should say, on Apple TV Plus. So again, a lot of great new content on Apple TV Plus. I think this is some very worthy mountain movies to watch this month, and I'm way behind and even catching on series besides movies. So I got to get cooking on Apple TV Plus. There's some great stuff here, guys. Anybody want to throw any comments on this?
Yeah, have you seen the Long Way Home series? Because this is
I've not.
It's very cool. They plan out a route, and I think they did one from like the tip of South America north, and they just they do their bikes and they go along so it's you get a little bit of a travelogue at the same time you get the experience of these guys doing a route that has all sorts of challenges with it.
Yeah. No, this is some great content. I'm looking forward to finally get some time to go watch it. Like the other thing I call time. I have all this time to be able to watch things here. So, any other comments before we move on?
Oh, I am really looking forward to Murderbot.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and since the author was heavily involved, it should be true to the book. So I think it will be very well done.
Yep. All right. This story, real quick. We talked about this kind of during the Q2 results. Tim Cook is excited as construction begins on the TSMC's third U.S. chip plant. Apple's CEO Tim Cook had said today that the company is excited about becoming the first customer of TSMC's Arizona chip plants. He made the comment that as the company started its construction on their third plant. So we can have some made in America chips, and the ground was broken for this U.S. chip plant. I can't say much more about it other than this. I guess it's a good thing. We're going to see some American-made chips. It'll be pretty hard to sustain that, as we've talked about. Where chips seem to be cheaper to produce in more Asia Pac countries as far as costs go. But with the whole tariff thing, I don't want to go down that road. But it's going to be tough. But good to see that they're going to see some chips that are going to actually be manufactured here in the U.S. Any thoughts on this?
I mean, you're not going to be saying the high-end A series made at these plants, at least not for a while.
Right.
But getting these skills back in the hands of U.S. labor is definitely something that's going to be best for Apple in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else have comments on this?
Yeah, I agree with Ben. The first plants, it was like products 4 to 5 years out. Chips are from back a ways, and this one is like 3 generations out. So it's progressing. It's getting better and better, and hopefully they'll keep going.
Yep. Jeff, got something?
I've spoken way too much tonight. I think Eric and Ben summarized my thoughts very eloquently. So thank you for that.
All right. I'll go with that. Next story here. Apple launches a new snapshot webpage, your favorites at a glance. They announced this past week. That's a brand new page that highlights content from their popular music artists, actors, and athletes across three of its biggest services. The new snapshot on Apple page has a scrolling carousel of celebrities, including Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter, Kendrick Lamar, Ariana Grande, Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston. I can go on and on with all these people that are on here, including Steph Curry, Serena Williams, and so many others. And it also has pages for the bands like Coldplay and BTS. Each page has some basic details about the person or band, and then showcases some of the related content. It is still kind of a work in progress, and if you guys have gone to the site, the link's in the show notes here on this article, and it is kind of cool. But it has your favorites at a glance, and it just kind of scrolls. So I mean, I'm seeing like Maya Rudolph and Cardi B and Lionel Messi if you're an MLS fan, and you just can click any one of those and explore, and it brings you to that particular person. So I could just click Maya Rudolph, and it brought up a new release for a TV show and what she's on Apple TV, and more on Apple TV Plus, and the podcasts that are related to, as well as Apple Music. This is kind of cool. That even tells you a little bit about her, like where she was born, and when's her birthday, and all the content in here. I think Apple's got a little something here. It might be something fun to look at, to explore. Jeff, did you take a look at this? What do you think?
I did take a look at this right before we jumped into the story.
Okay.
And all right, here's the deal. Apple has a long history of trying to find better ways to give us discoverability. And my first impression on this is, wow, Apple is doing something that helps us with discoverability.
Mm.
At the same time, I feel like this is incredibly hobbled, but I understand it's a work in progress. This needs to be far more extensive, and they need to add in ways for you to search and
Mm-hmm.
like say, hey, I'm interested in performers who have been in sci-fi and fantasy movies. And so then you get the acting talent, but then maybe you get some writers, and maybe you get some musicians that have composed soundtracks, and so you can have discoverability through that, and then suggestions based on what you're looking at, all of that kind of stuff, and put it in the places where I am going to be when I want to find these people. I need to be able to sit on the couch and open up the TV app and have this kind of discoverability. And there you go. I'll stop hitting my mic. Sorry. Yeah, give this to me in a place where it's really useful for what I'm doing. Put it in those apps where I'm already looking for content.
Yep.
But hey,
all right,
at least we got a start.
We did. How about you, Ben?
I applaud Apple for continuing to try this. That said, I'm probably going to forget this ever existed by the time we do the Mac show tomorrow.
It'll be a whole brand new discussion for you.
Well, he has access to the show notes, so Jeff might come up with it just for you.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, Marty, anything to add on this?
I think the work that went into doing this can be used again for audio queries, for S-Lady type queries. So I don't think it'll be a waste. I think Ben's right. A few people will see it. It'll be easy to forget, but then if it comes back later and shows up because you ask a question, and then an artist is returned with background and other information, and it looks good for the moment when I'm going to to view it. So I wouldn't mind seeing it come back as a future query.
For you, Marty?
Yeah, I bet if we all went to snapshot.apple.com, we would have the same stream. I see this as kind of a shell game right now, where I don't really care about Steph Curry. He's not my favorite, and it's titled Your Favorites at a Glance. So I don't think it's necessarily curating into my Apple Music or my Apple Movies or the things that I've watched on Apple TV. I think this is an opportunity for me to go, oh, Morgan Freeman. Let me click on that. And then the next thing I get is some Apple-related entertainment piece that Morgan Freeman was associated with. So my problem with it is it's not my favorites yet. And until it gets curated that way, it's advertisement.
Okay. And like I said, I think it's work in progress. I don't think it's anything that's going to get anybody too overly excited, but fun thing to see where it goes.
But Marty, even when they get what you want in here, it's still advertisement. But it's palatable advertisement, and that's super important.
Yep. All right, a couple more stories here before we wrap up. ChatGPT gains a new shopping feature, which visual search and more. OpenAI announced several new updates to ChatGPT, including a suite of shopping-focused tools that turns the chatbot into a full-featured product discovery and comparison engine. The update brings visual search results, personalized recommendations, and improved product filtering to the existing ChatGPT interface. Users can browse and compare products from across the web by simply describing what they're looking for. A good example was they gave a query that says best 4K monitors under $500. It now brings back a much cleaner, scrollable product and complete with images, star ratings, pricing, summarized, pulled from user reviews, and then topping on a product that brings up more details along with a direct link to the retailer's website to purchase. I just put that query that it mentioned in the article, and wow, it's pretty amazing. It has 4 different monitors that are picked. Actually, no, there's more. There's about 6 or 7 or 8 of them. You just scroll across the screen here. And then it gives the top picks explained and goes through all the different steps. I mean, you've got about 8 or 9 steps, 7 steps here as far as what top picks were explained, and then it gives you a summary. I think this is really cool, and I can see Apple could tap into this. Obviously, with Apple Intelligence linked with ChatGPT, could have something that would be of interest. But Marty, you being a ChatGPT aficionado, what do you think of this?
I guess I'm still going to go to Amazon and search for the same thing. It's another resource to be able to do that. I'm not sure I use my intelligent engines for that purpose. My fear is that I'd start a conversation with ChatGPT, as my personal assistant. And then I'd get angry at it because it was being too nice to me. And the next thing I would be getting ads for aromatherapy candles and yoga mats.
Then there's that.
It's just too much there. I'd like to keep my shopping separate from my research queries and my creative productivity.
Yeah. How about you, Jeff? What do you think of this?
It's no secret that OpenAI wants to be your go-to place for all of your online information requests.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is they want to take on Google head on.
Yeah.
And a core part of being able to do that is product shopping. So for the people that were still thinking, oh no, ChatGPT and Google Web Search, these aren't related. They're complementary or even just parallel. They're different things.
No, they're not.
ChatGPT wants to be your new search engine, and there you go.
Yeah. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I think everybody so far got this head on. They're going up against Google, but I mean, honestly, this is not what I use ChatGPT GPT for.
Okay. Yeah, I've done it for many other different things beyond shopping. Uh, uh, and
Not
Eric, have you
yet.
yeah, we'll see. Eric, have you used ChatGPT before? Something like this?
Every once in a while, or a different AI model. I mean, really, what this is showing is Google searching is abysmally bad right now.
Yep.
No one. This wouldn't be a product. No one would be looking for this if you could actually search in Google and get a result that made sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
I was going to go.
I don't. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, so I don't think this will be the last engine that is out there for searching. I think this will be one of the more popular features for AI search tools.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just tried it in Google Gemini, and it's also just going to give us this text-based responses. So that's one of the different things that GPT is offering on this. So, as AI progresses, more things are going to happen like this. So we'll see where it goes, right? And then the last story I want to hit this week is why Roku's ad strategy makes Apple TV 4K the better streaming choice. In a surprising twist, Roku's marketing lead, Jordan Roast, may have inadvertently made the strongest case yet for choosing Apple TV 4K over the Roku's streaming service devices. As it was reported back earlier on 9 to 5 Mac on April 23rd of this year, Roast's comments was about Roku's ad-heavy approach. I would agree with that, highlighting a growing divide between the streaming market and affordable devices with intrusive ads versus a premium ad-free experience like the Apple TV 4K. With Roku's latest streaming sticks priced at $23 to $39, Apple TV 4K starts at $129. The price gap is significant, but so are the differences of the user experiences. I would tend to agree with this when it comes to user experience. I mean, again, we're all Apple fans here. I've got a Roku, and I have not touched it in a while. I mean, I have a number of Rokus, and I even tried to set one up for my mother, and that's hard because she'll hit the ads that come up all the time, and then she doesn't know where she went. So, I mean, and even trying to make something simple for somebody is tough. So, Eric, what do you think on this? On what their comments were about Apple TV?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. There's nothing I hate worse than having to deal with ads. I mean,
Yeah.
I get a short window. I want to sit down and I want to relax, and it's ads. Or even if you successfully start something and you get into it, and then all of a sudden you have ads breaking it up. It's a miserable experience.
Agreed. And Jeff, your thoughts?
I dread the day that I have to replace my ancient Sony Bravia television because everything's a smart TV now,
Right.
and I don't want to use any of the smart TV features.
Yep.
So, when I see stories like this about what Roku is doing, and we've seen stories about Samsung and other companies that are looking at ways to inject ads into your regular television viewing experience, I get real uneasy. And yes, this is a great selling point for Apple TV. Unfortunately, I think that message will be lost on a lot of people because there's a big difference between $19.99 for a Roku or a Fire Stick and what's the base Apple TV now? $129.
$129.
Yeah, that $100 difference. That's significant for a lot of people.
Agreed. How about you, Ben?
Look, when I choose a streaming service with ads, I'm making that choice willingly. Basically turning your Fire TV or your Roku or your whatever into that failed concept called Telly.
Yeah. I had the option to get a free one. I said no because I don't want to commit to that stupid thing.
Yeah, this is destroying the TV experience. I would rather pay more and get that ad-free experience in the interface, then get one of these. I mean, fortunately, so far, Google, of all people, the masters of ads, have not injected ads like this into Google TV. And you can get some Google TV devices at Walmart for basically a song that are very usable. But really, with all the stuff that's going on, and places like Roku, who are trying to degrade the experience to make a buck, if Apple were to make a bare bones device at the old $79 cost that the Apple TV was before tvOS, that thing would just go flying off the shelves.
It could, but Apple's not known to having that kind of discounted units these days. So I would just challenge that. If they would come up with something less price, there's no reason to, because they're still getting people to buy it. But there is a lot more Roku owners out there than there is Apple TV owners because of the price. You're right. Mm-hmm. And I think the experience on Roku is not anywhere near what the Apple TV is. When I go to Roku, I start navigating around again. I probably should do it again. I haven't done it in so long. And I was like, God, this is a pain in the butt. I can't even get around this stuff. And then you got the damn ads everywhere, and and then you have to uninstall these apps. And the App Store experience is much better on the Apple TV. So I would agree with that. So last word on this is from Marty.
God bless them. They're just trying to make a buck. They're not going to make it by selling a bazillion $20 Roku sticks.
Right.
My thinking of this is there was a time generationally when we grew up and TV shows, as we called them, were 21 minutes long with 9 minutes of commercials interspersed throughout them. And we got up and we got a sandwich or we took a pee and we did whatever we were going to do during that minute and a half of commercials that broke up the show neatly into 3 or 4 parts and broke the narrative. Once VCRs came out and we could fast forward through all that crap, the whole idea of what we watch and the narrative changed. This is a 1960s kind of way of looking at entertainment that doesn't fit in the 2020s at all. And a whole generation of people grew up with being able to skip ads or not have ads at all.
Yep, that is true. All right, that's pretty much that in a nutshell. I'm still sticking with my Apple TV. I think most of us here are going to as well.
Hey, Dave.
With that, go ahead. Yes.
What? Real quick, one thing about the Apple TV that's super appealing to me, it doesn't matter what television I'm using, as long as I have my Apple TV. If my TV were, not knock on wood, to die today, hopefully it doesn't, I could go to the store, pick up a new TV, bring it in, plug it in, and as long as that smart TV doesn't require an internet connection just to turn on and work, all I have to do is plug it into my Apple TV and I'm back in business. Nothing else changes. To me, that's a huge selling feature for Apple TV.
The other, I'll hit to that point, thanks for bringing that up, is the fact that if you have multiple Apple TVs in your house like I do, when you sign into all of them on your Apple ID, on your account, any apps that are installed on the one Apple TV will sync to all the other ones. So you want to keep a consistent app. How do you think of that? I mean, Roku, again, their app experience is just god awful. I mean, having to move them around and uninstall them, reinstall them, and I think it's poor execution on the Roku's part with apps, because again, it's a $30 device. They're trying to sell the more expensive ones, but I've never seen one that's been that good of a quality, that having the consistency of what Apple TV does. Now, granted, I would say, a lot of people don't like the Apple TV remote because it's hard to navigate. And, my wife has the challenge with it all the time. There's these third-party companies that are coming up with the button remotes, but then still that's a little harder to do because there's some of the things that the Apple TV remote can do that button remote isn't going to do. So they really haven't come up with somewhat better way with the remotes. I'm used to it, so it doesn't bother me, but a lot of people have the challenge with it. So, all right. But before we wrap up this week, I want to make sure we talk about MacStock. The MacStock Conference and Expo is going to be on July 11th, 12th, and 13th this year, and I can't believe it. There's 70 days until MacStock. I can't wait. And the theme this year is share. And what it is, you're gonna be, any of the presenters are going to be able to share what their engaging presentations are going to be. I will give a spoiler alert. I'm going to be talking about sharing by using screen capturing programs like Snagit. So that's what my topic is going to be. But I know Marty's going to be speaking. Jeff's going to be speaking as well. They'll be working on their presentations. Like I haven't started yet either. So, I know all of us are in that same boat. But a lot of good new fresh speakers, including such folks that I've not met before: Mike Burke and Chris Cook. Friend of the show, Brian Flanagan Arse is going to be here. This guy Jeff Gammett's going to be speaking, and then Kelly Gamont and Brittany Smith will be together in the same room for the first time, and I can't remember how it's been when I've seen them both together. That's going to be a fun time. It will be had by all when you're in the same room with those two awesome ladies. And Jill McKinley, who's been on the show many times, she'll be there. Allison Sheridan's going to be there. Kirsten Say. Brett Terpstra, and then Marty, as well as his son, Will Genesis, are going to be doing a tag team presentation, which I'm looking forward to seeing as well. So you've got some great content that's going to be coming for this show, for this conference. 3 full days, including workshops and presentation sessions. They're going to be giving you lunch. You're going to get a commemorative MacStock 9 T-shirt. I have every T-shirt that I've received because I've, of course, been to every MacStock. And you're going to get the digital pass included. And then that was one of the big things we want to promote too, because there are digital passes from past years you can purchase now. And then if you go to see MacStock Live, it's going to be, you'll automatically get the digital pass so you can go back and watch what you saw and take notes and be able to refer back to what you had learned during this conference. The best way in the world to be able to do networking. You'll see old friends, you'll meet new friends. All of the presenters are very approachable. I can attest to that because I am, and Jeff is, and Marty is. So we would love to have you come out and to check it out. Again, it's July 11th, 12th, and 13th. It's in Crystal Lake, Illinois, at the Holiday Inn. There is a wonderful convention center there, and we're going to be able to stay in one place. You can get hotel rooms right in the hotel at the Holiday Inn and be in the same place. You don't even have to leave if you don't want to. And the Crystal Lake area in Illinois, outside of Chicago, is always a great place there's some great other places to eat if you want to get around. And so please check it out. But for In Touch with iOS listeners and watchers, I have an offer code. Offer code is InTouch50. If you use that when you check out, you will get $50 off the weekend pass and so save a little bit of money as well as be able to just get this amazingly great content. Website again is MacStockConferenceandExpo.com. Links in the show notes. We want you to be there, and I think everybody here is looking forward to it. I know we got to get Ben to come. Hope maybe we can. We'll twist his arm a little bit, but he's crossing his fingers. So, but we'll get everybody there. But Eric Bone's going to be there. Marty, myself, and Jeff, and so many other of our friends. Chuck Joyner's going to be there this year. He's kind of in the bullpen for speaking, but he's going to be there. Don't worry, he'll be there for Mac Voices. So, looking forward to it. So again, MacStockConferenceandExpo.com. Come check it out. You're going to have a blast. I can't wait to see it. And use that offer code InTouch50 at checkout to save yourself $50. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Blue Sky and as well as Mastodon at InTouchWithIOS. Support the show. Buy me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to be notified when we are live streaming, which is on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios. We had a bunch of folks in the chat there, with us live, including Webb Bixby. How you doing, Webb? So glad to see you. You can also be able to watch the live streams that we record, as well as be able to listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine. The link is in our show notes. And you can also subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, which includes Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, and many others. But better yet, just go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are right on that website. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Blue Sky and Mastodon at DaveG65. Ben Rathick, so glad you made it this week. I hope we get to see you again more. Where can people find you?
Well, Dave, first off, right after the show, you're going to be finding me going to look for my two Aldi's quarters to put in the Marty AFib bucket.
Nice one.
Now that I'm better, you're going to be able to find me on podcasts such as this one, and the Mac Show and Mac Voices Live, hopefully a little bit more often. Work aloud. You can also find my rants and ravings at rathictech.com.
Great.
And on social media at Ben Rathick. Yeah, that's still a thing too.
That is. Any social media you'll find Ben at Ben Rathick. Thanks, Ben. Eric Bolden, always a pleasure having you back on the show. Where can people find you?
I can be found on Mastodon at EA Bolden at techhub.social, as well as Blue Sky, also at EA Bolden. And then Mondays with Vision Profiles with Marty, and Tuesdays with Mac Voices, and occasionally here.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, there. Thanks for being here. Jeff Gamet, always a pleasure having you here, and love having you. And your insights are always a great thing. Where can people find you?
Well, first, thank you for being so patient and tolerant and letting me come back week after week. I do appreciate that. So you can find me on social media, jgamut, on pretty much everything. I'm posting mostly right now on Mastodon, PixelFed, and Blue Sky. And then for shows, Tuesdays on Chuck Joyner's Mac Voices Live, here on Thursdays for In Touch with iOS. Then on the British Tech Network, The Big Show and The Mac Show. Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine, and Patrice Brendamore and I do Retro Rewatch.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeff, for being here. Last but certainly not least, Marty Gencius. It's always a pleasure having you on the show, and your insights are just amazing as well. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Gencius, Gencius, at mastodon.social. Also, Gencius at bluesky.com. Most of the stuff that I do you can find on the website. The podtalk.net includes shows like Vision Profiles with Eric on Monday night at 9 p.m. We stream. In fact, I stream all my shows, so you can kind of pick up on the schedule there at the podtalk.net. Tuesdays with Chuck on Mac Voices, Thursdays here, occasionally on the Mac Show on Fridays, and then a host of other shows that I'm producing, Gear Up and Go with my son, and that's turned out to be just a joy to be able to have him as on a podcast on a regular basis. The Old Mac Gang, I will be bringing, I think, the oldest person to MacStock, Gary, who is 87 years old. We're putting him in the back of the car and driving him over from Ohio, and he's excited to meet everybody. So,
awesome.
A bunch of other shows, thepodtalk.net.
Excellent. Thanks, Marty. And thank all of you for listening, watching, being here in the live chat on youtube.com/intouchwithios, and supporting the show. We really appreciate it, and we know you enjoy it as well as we do. So until next time, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll talk again soon.